This video was meant to be for Mr. Beast and Mark Rober's Team Seas last year, so by my calculations, I'm a little bit late. But they're still taking donations, and I want to get nerdy about the oceans, so this is... There is roughly 38.5 quadrillion tons of salt in the world's oceans. Salty. At night, parrotfish enclose themselves in a bubble of their own mucus to avoid being smelt by predators. Water coming out of hydrothermal vents can be up to 400 degrees Celsius, and only the pressure of the water depth keeps it from boiling. Coral produces its own protein-based sunscreen so that the algae that live within it don't get damaged by too much sunlight. The Mid-Oceanic Ridge is the longest mountain range on Earth at 40,390 miles long, which is 10 times longer than the Andes. A litre of seawater contains around 35 grams of salt, but only a billionth of a gram of iron. The pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench is 8 tons per square inch. So in that brief time before you were squished, that would feel like holding up 50 jumbo jets. The largest waterfall in the world is underwater between Greenland and Iceland, and it's formed by the temperature difference of the water. It drops 11,500 feet and has a flow rate that is 50 times faster than Niagara Falls. In 1966, the United States just lost a hydrogen bomb at sea, and it took about 2.5 months for them to find it again. The Mediterranean used to be a dry basin until around 5 million years ago, when water from the Atlantic poured through the Strait of Gibraltar to fill it up in a 2-year torrent. The deeper the ocean is, the faster a tsunami will travel, all the way up to around 500 miles an hour as a wave that's just a few inches tall. 96.5% of the world's water is contained in the oceans. There are around 3 million shipwrecks in the ocean. It's thought that there are more treasures and artifacts at the bottom of the ocean than in all of the world's museums combined. 70% of the atmosphere's oxygen was produced by ocean-dwelling phytoplankton, kelp, and algal plankton. Point Nemo in the Pacific Ocean is the furthest point on Earth from any land. In a single teaspoon of seawater, there is over 5 million bacteria, and there are more bacteria in the world's oceans than there are stars in the known universe. What? The Pacific Ocean covers 30% of the Earth's surface, as much as all the land on Earth combined. Life existed in the oceans for 3 billion years before it made its way to land. 50 times more carbon is held in the oceans than in the atmosphere. The longest known mammal migration was achieved by a grey whale, travelling 22,511 kilometres over 172 days. The largest underwater cliffs are around the Bahamas, with sheer drops of up to 4,000 metres. The largest ever recorded blue whale was 33 metres long, which is the height of an 11-storey building. The deepest free dive ever made was 214 metres. Sharks are covered with these tiny little things that are like teeth called dermal denticles, which makes their skin feel like sandpaper, as if sharks didn't already have enough teeth. As far back as 310 BCE, ancient Greeks were throwing bottles into the seas to learn about the currents, and by doing it, they found out that the Mediterranean Sea is filled with water from the Atlantic. And there's this one guy called Harold Hackett, who isn't an ancient Greek, who's thrown in over 5,000 messages in bottles into the Atlantic. And he's had over 3,000 responses to them. Wow, that's a saucy message. Moray eels opening and closing their mouths isn't an aggression tactic, it's just how they breathe. We don't know how eels reproduce in the wild. Like, we literally have never seen it happen. Oceans have internal waves between areas of different densities, and these waves can be 600 feet tall. Some species of nudibranchs can absorb stinging cells from prey that they eat to use later as their own defense system. By 2050, the amount of plastic in the ocean is gonna outweigh the fish, unless we change things, which is exactly what Ocean Cleanup and Team Seas are doing. So quick reminder, there's a link below, let's clean up those oceans. There's an underwater Venus flytrap equivalent known as the water wheel plant that traps tiny invertebrates. There is a living colony of Neptune grass that's thought to be over 100,000 years old. Sea otters have a secret little pocket of skin near their armpits that they use to store little snacks in. This is a kitchen sponge. It's synthetic and was invented back in the 1940s, but real sea sponges have been used since all the way back in the ancient Greek times, where they used them to wash their butts. Manatees look like they have loads in common with dolphins or whales, but they're actually more closely related to elephants, which is also not exactly surprising. Jellyfish have been around since before the dinosaurs and have survived 5 mass extinctions. Lobsters pee out of their face through urine nozzles under their eyes. Sea cucumbers eat anything stuck to sand at the bottom of the ocean, and then they just poop out the sand all nice and clean. More people have set foot on the moon than have made it to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Mating leaves male octopus with chronic memory loss or dementia. Seahorses are the only animal on Earth that has the male get pregnant. A blue whale's tongue weighs more than an elephant. Crabs have taste buds on their feet. A hit from a mantis shrimp is as fast as a .22 caliber bullet. The soft white sand of tropical islands is actually parrotfish poop from the coral they've eaten. And it's estimated that a single parrotfish can poop out over 11,000 pounds of sand every year. The world record for the longest surfing ride is held by Gary Saavedra for his 3-hour and 35-minute ride of a speedboat's wake back in 2011. The tallest ever recorded wave was a 534 meter high mega tsunami caused by a landslide in Lituya Bay, Alaska in 1958. An average humpback whale eats 2,000 to 2,500 kilograms of plankton, krill, and small little fish each day during feeding season. About 76% of marine life is bioluminescent. During late spring, corals on the Great Barrier Reef release clouds of little balls in a synchronized mass spawning event over a few days that looks kind of like a snowstorm. If you removed all of the salt from the world's oceans and spread it across the Earth's surface, it would form a layer that's over 152 meters thick. A blob of water would take around 1,000 years to travel all the way around the globe in the global ocean conveyor belt. The top 10 meters of our oceans has the same mass as the entire atmosphere. The Pacific Ocean has 25,000 islands. Nice. A lot of the time, the closest humans to Point Nemo, which is the furthest point from any land, are the people that are in the International Space Station overhead. The world's deepest scuba dive is 332.5 meters, and it took 12 minutes to reach that depth, but over 15 hours to safely reach the surface. Because of its exclusive economic zones that extend 200 miles from its continental coastlines, over half of the USA is actually in the ocean. Coral reefs cover just 1% of the seafloor, but support 25% of known marine species. The sand of the Sahara Desert is made up of skeletons of diatoms, which were a type of phytoplankton that lived inside a silica housing in an ocean above northern Africa millions of years ago. Greenland sharks can live for over 400 years, which means some exist now that were born in the 1600s. The chemical composition and structure of some corals is so similar to human bones that they've been used in bone grafts. Sea turtles can't process all of the seawater they drink, so they cry out excess salt. Sperm whales have the biggest noses in the animal kingdom. There's a rare birth defect that can make starfish be born square. The world's longest pregnancy happens in frilled sharks, lasting for around 42 months and producing a litter of 15 offspring. There are 16 species of ultra black fish whose skin absorbs over 99.5% of light that hits them. Groups of dolphins have accents and dialects just like humans. Lots of bony fish have more than 2 nostrils. Damselfish grow little gardens of algae. Flatfish aren't born flat. Flatfish babies are actually born upright like other fish, but as they grow, they gradually flatten out. This is a scorpionfish. Its eggs take just 2 days to hatch. A ghost pipefish's head makes up almost half of its body. Seahorses have a 90% killing rate, and they also have no teeth or stomach. Some species of anglerfish mate by having the male chomp down on the female and then fuse into the female's body, and then she'll just carry around the leftovers of his body until she just needs it to fertilize some eggs. That's gross. Dolphins only sleep with one half of their brain and one eye closed at a time. Harlequin shrimp flip sea stars over so they can't run away. And then they feed them to keep them alive whilst they take little bites out of them for food. Even though Europa is only 1/4 the diameter of Earth, its oceans contain twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans combined. There are more bristlemouth fish in the ocean than there are stars in the Milky Way galaxy, like 1,000 times more. Bowhead whales can live over 200 years, the longest of any mammal. Their head also makes up about 1/3 of their total massive length. Thalassophobia is the fear of oceans. So if you've got thalassophobia and you made it to the end of this video, nicely done. So that was exactly 10 minutes of useless facts about the oceans. What topic should I do next time? Let me know down in the comments. Make sure that you click the link to check out Team Seas, and I'll see you in the next one.